Greetings, Internet. One more voice with the second part of the gun control video because I said I would. And literally, right afterwards, just booting up everything right off, I didn't even pause for breath. Didn't even pause to get myself another cup of water. So if I start to sound hoarse, God help me, because I need to be able to speak. So, what are actually one of the points that I wanted to follow? Right. United States, we're actually number 10 on gun deaths per capita, and most of those are self-inflicted. In fact, most firearm usage is in self-defense, or hunting, or target practice. The vast majority of firearm usage is either has no victim, or, as much as I hate to say it, was legally justified in its use. Now, I know, I do not like to use the excuse or reasoning that because it was legal, it was right, because that's not necessarily the case. There are laws in the books in this country that are absolutely ludicrous, like you're not allowed to park your giraffe out in front of City Hall. That's like a place in Pennsylvania or something that has that law. And I demand the right to be able to park my giraffe as an American citizen wherever I want. But, in all seriousness, so first off, the numbers and the problem is being greatly, greatly exaggerated, especially in a country as divided as ours. It's honestly a wonder why more people aren't shot. But then again, considering how it's mostly either moderates or conservatives that have all the firearms, and all the leftists are anti-firearms people that wouldn't know how to operate one if it fell into their hands. It's actually, honestly, it's making a little bit more sense to me why no one's been shot. If it were the progressives with all the guns, I guarantee you that that would end very, very poorly. Again, that's a messy topic. I'm gonna go ahead and stay away from that. Progressives have become such violent, unreasonable people. So, oh, right, violent and unreasonable people, which brings me to circle back to the M16 AR-15 style rifle. It seems as if this rifle type is very popular with a certain kind of firearm user. The loud firearm user, let's go ahead and call them. The person that likes to buy all the extensions and attachments and tactical gear for their rifle, and they love to tell everybody just how tactical it is. They love to tell everybody, oh, the SEALs use this, or the Green Berets use that, and because I've attached it to my firearm, therefore, I'm just as cool as a SEAL or Green Beret. No, you are really not. Firearms manufacturers are actually a little bit guilty of pushing this, as are the people who write for firearms magazines. You pick one up these days, and it's advertising straight out of a 15-year-old's comic book. Buy the Ultra Mega. I was literally reading Modern Shooter, and it said, "Get your man card back." Man card? Firearms? No, those two things are not linked in the slightest. And if you think that they are, then you have a very skewed sense of the world, and a very skewed sense of masculinity. Masculinity is defined by capability. It is not designed by your ownership of certain tools. So, and the sort of people it seems that pick up on the tactical rifles is because they've more or less been sold the exact same lie that the anti-firearm people have been sold. They believe that this is a tool of death and destruction, and because it is a tool of death and destruction, this attracts the people that really want those AR-15s. Now, I'm not going to say that it's every AR-15 user is one of these people, but I've seen a lot of them. I know some people that actually own AR-15s, and they're nice people. They just like them because they're very lightweight and they're very accurate at long range, mid to sort of long ranges. The point is that they're really not that good of a rifle. They're okay. I've fired them. I've also seen the price tag on those things, and those absolutely not. No, it's substandard for what you are paying However, the rifle's been hyped up as some sort of symbol of American firearm ownership, and I think that branding strategy is really what's actually causing this entire controversy. The people that want a tool of death and destruction are picking out the AR-15 because that's how it's been sold, and the anti-firearm people are throwing a fit because they've been sold the exact same lie, and they don't want these tools of death and destruction on the streets. Alright, well, speaking of tools of death and destruction on the streets, more people are killed with handguns than an assault rifle, and also assault rifles. The AR-15 is not an assault rifle. It's really not. But I'm getting tangled up in their own terminology. These tactical-looking rifles are really not used in a lot of crime. In fact, handguns, concealable firearms, are far more likely to be used in a crime than any one of these semi-automatic rifles, because that's what they are. They are mid-range semi-automatic rifles, and yes, some mass shooters have used them because, as I've said before, these mass shooters are the kind of people that will pick out a firearm very specifically because it looks cool, it looks scary, and because it has been sold and advertised as a tool of death. And that is not the sort of attitude that we should be selling firearms on. Absolutely not. And secondly, it's irresponsible for firearms manufacturers and firearms weapons to be using that as a tactic. So, basically, either really edgy people or really, I don't want to say, how about this? People that fetishize the tactical look and people that are really edgy are the ones most likely to be picking up the AR-15. Personal opinion, personal theory, but it seems to hold true. Handguns are far more likely to be used in a crime because if someone's going to commit a crime, they want the element of surprise. You're not going to have the element of surprise walking up with a full-size rifle towards your target. You will have the element of surprise if you can conceal said firearm in your pocket or your jacket or your waistband, and then once you're within range, they usually just use that advantage. So yeah, handguns, and the numbers will back this up. Handguns are far more likely to be used in crime. And there's so many of them out on the street that are completely unregistered, you're not going to be able to get rid of them. I believe I already made a video about that one. But, so yeah, the AR-15, horrible, horrible focus for the anti-firearm people, and it's also a horrible focus for the pro-firearm people. Seriously, let the AR-15 go. Or just stop focusing on it. A military-style rifle that is not being paid attention to is the M1 family. The M1 family, you got your Garands, you got your carbines, you got your M14s, which actually Springfield has made up a modernized version that is very nice. Accurate, high caliber, it's very nice for target shooting, hunting, everything of that nature, and you know what? Quite frankly, I am glad that it has not been sold as a tool of destruction, because that's not what it is. That's really not what it is, and that's not what it should be. But these actual military rifles, the actual ones, the Garands, the M14s, the M1 carbines, all of these things are probably, well, they fire a much larger caliber, they're much more accurate at long ranges, they're much more reliable. You drop an AR-15 in the wrong way, and boy howdy, you're going to have a very expensive bill to repair that thing, because it's mostly plastic and springs, roughly the size of the ones you would find in a Bic pen. So, yeah, no. Military-style weapons. The people writing this legislation have no idea what they're talking about, and it wouldn't even really have much of an impact on gun deaths per capita per year. Alright. What's another one? High-capacity magazines. Dumb argument. You can swap out a magazine in under a second. You can carry a lot of magazines. United States soldiers often carry upwards 200 rounds on them at any given time, using standard-side 30-round magazines. And, of course, they want to ban 30-round magazines. Alright, 10-round mags are just fine. You can just swap those out really quick. If you spend a couple of hours practicing it, which I guarantee you, if somebody wants to commit a horrible act of... if someone wants to commit an atrocity, they can figure it out. That's not what we need. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, assault weapon. Okay, there's no such thing as an assault weapon. That is a made-up magical term that literally means nothing. I think what they mean is select fire automatic, okay? That's already illegal for civilian use. Already illegal. Alright, bump fire. Right, now this is a fun one. So, bump fire. Basically, it just uses inertia to pull the trigger multiple times in a very rapid succession on a semi-automatic rifle. Now, there's a lot of videos circulating around that basically show you how to do this without a bump stock. You know, basically, you hook your thumb or something like into your pocket, and then you just like hold the firearm, and the recoil will cause it to rapidly fire and just spray all over the place. So basically, you'd have to ban inertia. Banning bump stocks is not going to do anything. They actually banned bump stocks now, so yay, I guess. Granted, most people that purchase bump stocks are going to fall into the same tactical camp that I mentioned earlier, but didn't accomplish a tremendous amount. You can do the exact same thing with a wooden firearm. You can do the exact same thing. So, basically what I'm doing this long 11.5 minute meandering point is that all of these proposed and implemented firearm control methods are not going to work. They're not going to actually have any measurable impact on firearm deaths. They're really not, because everything that they're trying to do is not hitting at the core of the issue. And the core of the issue has absolutely nothing to do with firearms, the tool. It has to do with firearms, the concept, and the place that they hold in the minds of the people that use them. You can have a peaceful person and give them all the firearms and all the free ammunition in the world, and that person will never commit an act of atrocity. That person will never harm another human being. They'll go out, they'll do a lot of target shooting, and then they'll go home. Hang out online and make videos talking about random stuff. But the fact of the matter is that they'll never do anything bad. They'll never harm another person. Or, if they do, it won't be with a firearm, or it'll be incredibly incidental. You know, like, oops, sorry, I tripped and spilled something on you. My bad. What it is that you can give a psychopath a rock and a peaceful man a gun, and the psychopath is going to do a lot more damage. Firearms are not spawning shooters. Now, is access to firearm enabling mass shooters? In a sense, yes. However, you're never going to be able to confiscate or get rid of firearms in the United States, and even if you magically did, that wouldn't stop mass violence. People have been committing acts of violence with trucks with a higher degree of success than they have with firearms. So shooters would disappear, but then we would just have people using cars. And if you took all cars away and used public transportation, people would hijack transportation. If we as people, if we really wrap our minds around it, we're going to do what we want to do. Which can be either incredibly good or incredibly bad. Somebody wraps their mind around the fact that they want to help another human being, or they want to build a homeless shelter, or they want to find 10 dogs, 10 stray animals, a place to live. If they really set their mind to it, they're probably going to succeed. If they use every tool at their disposal, they're probably going to succeed. Human beings can do wonderful things. But at the same time, if a human being is broken to the point where they wish to do harm unto others in a large scale, there's probably not much anyone can really do to stop them if they truly put their mind to it, lay low, and then do it. The only way that we are going to stop this is if we remove the want. So I think the real question is, and I'm going to circle back to this because This isn't as long as the last one. I think I've covered all my points. This is why I don't do points, because I go through them way too quickly. So, this is why I don't do lists. So my question is, what is causing these people to want to commit acts of violence? That's the real question. But first off, so let me get my main point out of the way. All of these proposed ideas for gun control are not going to make a dent. They're not going to make a drop in the bucket. Or if they do make a drop in the bucket, it's not going to be statistically significant. It's not going to really save anyone. Or people are just going to find ways around it. Alright, so that's the anti-firearm people. These proposed ideas are not going to work. They're not actually going to cut to the core of the issue. And for every single inch of ground you gain, the pro-firearm people are going to dig their heels in. Alright, to the pro-firearm people. You gotta change your image. I hate to say it, but you have a tremendous amount of loud idiots running around with firearms that are just being flat out irresponsible with them and overtly aggressive. You gotta get a lid on that. I don't know how, but you're gonna have to get a lid on that. Maybe discourage it, or go back to or have the NRA. Maybe the NRA could tell people to be more disciplined with their firearms. I don't think that would be too far of too much to ask. So those are my primary points there, but let me go ahead and end it by cutting to the core of the issue, which is, what are we as a society doing wrong that we are producing these people that wish to harm others on a massive scale? What are we doing wrong as a people? Most of these people have been hurt in some way. Now, obviously, I'm not excusing their actions. But much like I'm not going to, defend anybody, I'm also not going to shy away from asking the question that what could have been done to prevent them from becoming what they became? What could have been done, or what happened, what has been done, that created the environment to create such people? It's an important question. It needs to be asked, and it needs to be addressed. We've got a lot of angry people out there, and they don't know how to process their anger. They don't know how to deal with it in a healthy way, and it's being dumped on them in such amounts that they lash out in a really horrifying way. So, in closing, stop focusing on ineffective gun control and start focusing on fixing the real problem. The real problem is with our culture. And if you're recoiling, then you probably just care more about being right than actually looking at the issue. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and someone else is right, and it really is just a simple matter of passing one or two bills and all this will go away. But I doubt it. I really do. Sorry to end on such a depressing note, but it is a very serious topic, and I like to take it seriously. Everybody have a nice evening. This is One More Voice.